Welcome to How I Got Here, hosted by seasoned educator Jeremy Proper. This is a podcast of conversations with his former students discussing their journey from middle school to where they are today. Guests highlight their successes and the life lessons learned along the way. And now let's welcome the host, Jeremy Proper.
Welcome to How I Got Here with Mr. Proper. I will be talking to former students who will tell their story of their personal journey from Mr. Proper's class to where they are now. Everyone has a different path to get to where they are now, and the path may just be the beginning to where they actually want to be. In these podcasts, I hope to tap into the journeys that my former students have taken, for them to share their experiences with my current students, and for that matter, anyone else who is interested in seeing how hard work in and out of the classroom actually pays off. So today, let me welcome my guest, Rachel Tumada. Hello, Rachel.
Hi,
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. And I have to go back to what we discussed earlier, that Rachel did a wonderful thing for me. And she opened my eyes to the fact that the main part where it says how hard work in and out of the classroom actually pays off. So Rachel's going to tell us what she does and where she is right now. So Rachel, why don't you take about 5 minutes or as much time as you want to tell my current students what you're currently doing now with your life.
Well, right now I'm professionally known as Miss Mada. I'm a DJ at Club Space in Miami. Um, I'm a resident DJ there, so I play every week. I open up for like the biggest DJs in the world that we book. I open or close, and yeah, that's been my life for like the past 11 years that I've been playing. And I also work for the company as head of logistics. So I'm off the decks, off the DJ equipment. I'm also like working behind the scenes, talking with agents, talking with artist liaisons, and I'm very involved uh, in the back end of things as well. So yeah, that's pretty much my life
So
right
you're
now.
getting a
And
taste of the whole business. You're doing the front
exactly, the
end.
music business. Yeah.
Yeah, you're really doing the whole music business. You're the performer as well as promoting, as well as do you do any what is the word? I can't think of it. Like the people who do the bills to let people know
Yeah,
who's
yeah,
playing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I do the lineups as well. I do the scheduling like with the other residents because it's not just me. There's other resident DJs and there's like a rotation. So yeah, I handle all of that
That's
basically.
awesome.
Yeah.
See, this is the aspect of things that I think people don't understand. It's not just Miss Mata shows up, her turntable's ready, she
Yeah.
spins her discs, she's out.
Right.
It's a whole other world. Now, is this because of your personal want to do, or is this because you want to learn about the whole industry? Like, what caused this to happen?
Well, the way that that happened, the company that I work for, it's called Lake Miami Rebels, and my boss at the time needed help. Like he booked, like he brought me in as a resident DJ, and that's all I was doing. But then he needed help on the back end, and I'm very organized, and he asked me to be his assistant. So from there, I was working very closely with him, and also I needed the money too, so
Yes, of
that was
course.
part of
That
it.
always helps when you're
So
young and you need
yeah,
money.
and and when I was DJing, like it was like $100, and it wasn't enough to pay the bills or whatever.
Oh,
So, this was like supplement income, and also like I was getting, more involved in the back end, and like, yeah. So that's how it
it's
started,
almost
and
on the job training.
absolutely, yeah. And I didn't know anything about writing emails properly or like, like I didn't know
Writing a
anything.
proper email? No way. I literally
Right,
just
like
went over that
business.
the other day.
Yeah, like write like, business emails or like how to CC people or like copy people. Like, yeah, it was very new to me. And yeah, I think in that aspect, like my boss like threw me in there in the lion's den, and I came to learn a lot from that experience.
That's
I
amazing.
still am now.
We always do. And then when we want to
Yeah,
get better, it's always a learning process. So
right.
if you could just go back for a second and tell the maturation of, so middle school, we know you went to South Miami Community Middle School, and to this day I still pronounce it wrong. Sometimes I say South Miami Middle School. I don't know. Anyway, so
I
you
think that's how you say it.
where did you wind up going to high school?
I went to Sunset
Sunset. Okay.
in
So
Kendall because it's right by my house. And
right by your house. So you
yeah.
weren't into, like, at this point, you didn't want to go to what's the artsy fartsy high school in Miami?
Uh, Man, I work right next to it. New World.
New World. That's it. New World School of the Arts. So
Yeah,
at this
I
point,
literally I look at the poster. Like I'm a block away. I look at the poster every day.
oh my God,
It's
that's
on the
funny.
side of the wall.
But at this point, going from middle school to high school, music was not there yet, or you just weren't pursuing it in the way that you do it now. Like this wasn't like career goal, 8th grade. Got to do this.
Right. No, it was definitely something I was always interested in. Like even in elementary school, I got into electronic music from my neighbor who's a lot older than me, and she exposed me to um, electronic music. And at the time, like Power 96 was playing like break beats and like trance and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And she told me like, oh, don't listen to that, listen to this. So she
So that
exposed
was your
me.
influence.
Yeah, absolutely. That was my influence into electronic music. I remember Daft Punk was playing on the radio.
Oh
And
yeah,
and I was like,
definitely.
oh, this is amazing. She's like, yeah, that's
No.
good, but this is better.
Right. So she was your own personal guru. She was your own
Right.
personal Sherpa guide who was
Right.
showing
She
you,
was the window. She was the door that opened everything to
yes,
me, you
this
know?
is the way to go. Right. We all had that. Exactly.
Right.
Like I know for music for myself, I have to shout out to my brother because my brother was always into music that I had no idea what it was. And then all of a sudden it was like, I couldn't live my life without listening to this. We all have that person, you know,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
you have this neighbor who's showing you this. So high school, you're mostly then focused on what? Are you just educationally bound at this point? Or are we still like, maybe this music thing is for me? Are you listening and performing or just listening?
No, just listening. At the time, like I was really big into, like these DJs, and then I went to Ultra for the first time, like when I was 16. That's back then when it was like $50 and it was like a one day.
Yeah.
Now it's like it's like a payment plan and it's like $1,000 for like 3 days.
Yeah.
Like it's intense.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's
Yeah,
all day, all night, and it's just band after band after
yeah,
band.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And actually my first time going, they had actual bands. Like they had the Killers, they had Hot Hot Heat.
Right.
It wasn't just DJs, which is what it is like now. It's only DJs.
Okay. So in the
They
beginning, it was
had
live music. Okay.
right. Yeah, it was a mix of everything. And I think I mean the culture of it was like a lot different back then as well.
Oh, I'm
But
sure.
yeah, that I was just listening to the music and like it was just definitely a hobby at the time. But back in the back of my mind, I was always curious, and my friends were DJs as well, and I was always like, oh, maybe I can, try it one day. But I think the fear of like playing in front of people was like kind of
It's
stopped
scary.
me. No,
Yeah.
it stopped me from like taking the next step and actually doing it. But then as soon as I like started practicing, like when I got into college, I was like, okay, this is not so bad.
So
And that's
high
when I started
school.
out.
So would you say high school is when you started dabbling in it?
I would
Or,
say the end of high school and the beginning of college.
oh, okay. So later. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Because I remember a lot of kids in South Miami, because we were a magnet program, that they were way into music, and I would let kids come in the morning and play and practice in my classroom. And yeah, so it took a while. Wow, that's interesting. So
Right.
not
Yeah.
everything comes to people immediately. It took a while.
No, yeah, I think definitely the fear is what like I on ironically enough, I have stage fright.
We all do.
But stage fright to the point like I can't speak in a room full of people, but if
Oh
I'm
wow.
playing music, then it's totally fine.
I got suckered into at my current school. They did, one of the assistant principals wanted to have put together a band, and I was not very good guitar player at the time. Not that I'm much better now, but same thing. I was like, okay, no problem, we'll do it. And then we're practicing, once or twice a week, and then it gets closer and closer and closer.
Right.
And my first performance was in front of almost 2,000 people.
Whoa,
Yeah. And
that's crazy.
we were in like a storage closet getting ready, and there was nobody in the gym. And then when it's finally our turn to come out, because it was a total surprise, they had no idea that we were doing this. All of a sudden, I walk out with my guitar on with the other performers that were going to play, and I'm like, "There's like almost 2,000 people here." Like there was no like the freak out was like, "Holy moly!"
Yeah, and
So
you're like, "Oh, I'm in it now. I gotta do it."
right, and it wasn't just like there was 25, 35 people. I couldn't believe it, but I totally understand the feeling that you get, the endorphins going and
Right.
everything. It's just amazing. And then it's all over so quick, and you're like, whoa,
Yeah,
whoa, whoa,
absolutely.
whoa. Yeah, that's amazing. So, okay, so you get into this in high school,
Right.
and then is college when it really starts to come all together?
Yeah, that's when I got really into it. And then when I was going to school at UCF in Orlando, they had a really small like scene, and they had these Monday nights actually at Sweet Bee, and they were playing house music, the music that I liked, because there wasn't like really a house music scene up there at the
Right.
time. But that was it, and it was a close knit like group of people, and then I got
Sure.
close. Yeah, so it was like a family reunion like every week when I started going for like two
Nice.
months, and you see all your friends there, and like it became very familial almost, like it's
Yeah.
like a and like I
Close knit
really
bond. Yeah, sure.
yeah, exactly. And I really loved how close knit it was at the time. And that's what, like, I guess propelled me more into the music. And that community is like was so warm to me, like being away from Miami, like I didn't know
Right.
anybody. And yeah. And
So
I
that was
I
your second
exposed my
family.
friends to it too. Like
Oh,
at the
nice.
time, they were only into hip hop, and like I would be like, no, like come with me, like I want to show you something really cool.
You got to listen to this. This will blow your mind.
Yeah, yeah,
That's amazing. So you found a second family away at home. I think a lot of us do that in college, especially if you go away from home. If you're more than like
absolutely.
4 or 5 hours away from home, you have your college fam, and they're the
Yeah,
ones that help you through the bad times, and you find things that you're into, whether it's sports or music or whatever it is.
right.
And that's amazing. So then, okay, so here you are. Now, is your trajectory changing? Like, does it have anything to do with your academics? Like, are you starting to move more towards a business mindset, going, all right, if this is something I want to do, I kind of have to know how this side works?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't really have like real representation. Like I don't have a manager really. I'm my own manager,
Wow.
booker, and everything. And I think me being my boss's assistant has helped me like manage myself, which in the end is like probably the best thing. But obviously, like I'm not an agent that can promote myself in the way that like a manager or an agent can.
But you
But I
probably
think
understand the business a bit better than your average DJ, though.
absolutely, absolutely. Like, I'm not clueless, and then,
Right.
like, and
Because they
like,
love to take advantage of that.
absolutely, and then, like, I know a shark when I could see a shark. Like, I'm
Nice.
very,
You're
like,
well
I'm very
prepared.
aware.
You're
I'm
very aware and you're
prepared.
well prepared. Yes.
Yeah, exactly,
That,
absolutely.
that's
So,
amazing. Wow. So you're learning all aspects of this business, not just, to spin and it's over. You're like the whole package. You're doing
right,
everything yourself. That's
right.
amazing.
I say this thing all the time where I'm like, I'm a jack of all trades, master of
Nice.
none.
That's that. Yeah, that is a very old saying, and we all do that. Exactly. I can
Yeah,
do a lot of little things, but I can't master anything.
right.
So you had mentioned again that you were inspired by this neighbor. So now when you get to college and you got your college fam, was there another aha inspirational moment that may have happened in college that says, all right, you know what? Okay, how about this? How did we go from college to now the Miami scene? Like, how was that transition? I guess I'm
Well,
asking.
I mean, part of my journey was like not really scholastic. Like I did well in school, but I just felt like it wasn't for me personally.
Right.
But I was really passionate about the music at that time, and honestly, like I would the scene in Miami was a lot bigger than in Orlando, and like they were booking like the clubs that I was going to were booking like the DJs I wanted to see. So every other weekend I would drive down to Miami. Any chance that I could, I would come down to Miami just to see certain DJs at a certain club. And
So you actually spent more time now going back and forth home than staying
Absolutely.
at
The
school.
drive was like nothing to me. Now, like I would look at it and be like horrified at why like I did that.
Right. Why did I
You know,
do that? Why did I subject my
yeah.
It's
n-
simple. You were
Yeah.
young.
I was, yeah, exactly. Like now that I'm older, I'm kind of like, man, I'm gonna just take a flight. Like, why did I drive like
Exactly. I can get on a plane.
4 hours?
Why didn't someone tell me that?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
and like, oh,
amazing.
it's $40 this way, $40 back. Like it'll be fine.
Right, right, right. Well, also
Yeah,
though, when you're a college kid, $40 is a lot of money, you know.
absolutely. Yeah.
So now as an adult, you're like, man, all right, I'd rather get on the plane. It's
No,
like 45 minutes. Yeah, convenience
convenience,
outweighs price, without a doubt.
100%. As you get older,
That's
that
hilarious.
definitely, yeah, it's worth it. So,
So you
um,
found yourself going down to Miami very frequently. So
right.
then the transition went from, okay, I got what I need from college. Like, are you kind of, I guess, the music version of, I don't know, Mark Zuckerberg or any of the other high tech titans who basically went to college to get what they needed. They got what they needed, and then they moved in the direction to where they wanted to go.
Right. I mean, obviously, like, I mean, my mom paid a lot of money for college, so I wish that I like had this aha moment like earlier. But I
Right.
think if it wasn't for me leaving Miami, like my brother has said to me before, the world is bigger than Miami for me to go to college. Um,
And what did that quote mean to you,
those
since your brother
that
was the one that said it?
it he told me to get out of my comfort zone, you know, to like, leave everything behind because I wanted to stay in Miami to be with my friends at FIU, and I was fighting with my mom about going away for college. Like I didn't want to do it. I didn't know anybody, and I was afraid. And I think that what my brother told me, like the world is bigger than Miami, was like a huge catalyst for me to grow as a person. And I'm super thankful for those words, and it stays with me to this day.
And as
Um,
I love to tell my students, when the teacher is ready, the student, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I can't say it
yeah,
correct myself.
uh,
And just happened to be your teacher was your brother, and he said something to you that you needed to hear at that time, and
absolutely.
then you went and did this new journey, which led you, strangely enough, back to Miami. But you needed to do that before you could come back to do this.
Absolutely. What propelled me into becoming a DJ was that my friends were also DJing as well. And they were like,
Mm.
you have great musical taste. Like, why don't you try playing? You could play at my house. Like,
The
and,
encouragement was there, and that's huge.
yeah,
Huge. Your friends
yeah,
are on your side going, hey, you already like this stuff. Why don't you try to put it all together? That's amazing.
yeah, exactly.
Wow. And you hit on it is the question that I always ask about that aha moment where you were like, you said, I wish I had that aha moment at that time. So,
Right.
what was your aha moment where you went, okay, it's not going to be highly prized by my parents, but I'm going to go pursue this?
Right. Yeah, I think, yeah, it was challenging for me. Like, it was an internal conflict because I come from a Filipino background where education is like,
Number one, king.
exactly. Education is the most important thing. And yeah, for me, it was like disappointing my family because I was pursuing music, like
It,
pursuing this.
it almost
And
sounds like every show on TV that features Asian
yeah,
people, and that's it. It's like you've let the family down,
yeah,
kind of like an Italian film. How could you let
r-
the family down? And
yeah,
and that's it, because in Judaism, education is king. My wife's family, they're Cuban. Education is so important,
right,
and in most they are. But here you are pursuing your dreams, but trying to tell mom, this is my dream.
yeah.
Education really isn't. Wow.
Right. No, and like it took a while for her to understand. Obviously, like now she's okay with it.
Right, right, right. Well, now
But,
because you're actually feeding yourself and housing
right,
yourself,
exactly.
not
She doesn't
living
have to
in your
worry
mom's
about me.
proverbial
Yeah,
basement.
exactly. So like I'm the youngest of three. So my mom has always been worried about me, and I'm also like I guess I'm considered the black sheep
Well,
because
doing what you do, that's not the
yeah,
normal chain of events,
yeah.
right?
So like I'm a college dropout still, but when my mom started to see that I was super passionate about this, that I was willing to go in the trenches, being broke and doing this
Do the
on
hard
my
work,
own.
put in the time.
Yes, exactly.
Well,
She appreciated it and like started to acknowledge like, okay, like if you're able to take care of yourself and if this is what you want to do, then fine.
I
Um,
think that's the roughest thing is
yeah,
once you can convince the actual fam, your actual parents,
yeah,
your friends are always going to be on your side and they're going to say, yay, go do it no matter what, because they're your
right,
friends. But getting your parents to finally buy into that and go, all right, she's making something of herself and it's actually happening. But I'm sure that had to be a huge weight on your shoulders, knowing how important education
absolutely.
is culturally. And I wanted to ask, is your mom native Filipino? Was she born in the Philippines?
Yeah, she was born in the Philippines and yeah, she grew up poor. She has like she's actually a twin. There's like three sets of twins in her family.
Oh my
So
God.
she has like 11 brothers and sisters, you know, like in the Philippines it's a third world country, you know.
Right, right.
So
It's more difficult than here. So,
yeah, exactly. So and they're all nurses. Like that's our number one export in the Philippines. Like
oh
they're
wow, I
all
didn't know that.
yeah. I mean it's a running joke because like all the RNs they come from the Philippines and they come to the United States.
How
And my
funny.
mom was one of them
She was
and
one
my
of them.
aunt. Yeah,
Right.
and my aunt and my cousins
Oh
and
my gosh.
a
It's
lot of them.
literally like the family business.
Yeah, 100%. And
That's
so
brutal.
yeah.
So for
Um
her, it was a little difficult to see her baby, literally her youngest,
yeah,
say, education, not interested. I want to do this. And she's like, but what is this? And how can you even make money doing this? And
right.
then eventually you were able to say, but mom, I'm actually really good at it and I can pay my bills and we're moving in the right direction.
Right. Yeah. And I think
That's
when I
awesome.
started paying off my loans by myself, she was like,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. Exactly. Wait, this burden is not on me anymore. Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, all right, fine. Do whatever you want.
That's well, we all need that. We all
Right.
need to understand that. And that was me too. When I finally was moved to Arizona and met my wife and started teaching, it was the same thing. You're paying for yourself. All right, well, let's see where this goes.
Right.
So if Rachel could go back and tell her seventh grade self some advice to maybe make her life a little bit easier, what would you say?
Um, I would say to myself, don't be afraid to be your authentic self. Don't try to fit in. It's okay to be unapologetically yourself. I had like an identity crisis when I was younger. You know, like growing up in Miami, everybody is Hispanic, Latin.
Yes.
Um,
I learned
so
that moving there.
yeah, exactly. So like growing up, all my friends were like from Nicaragua, Peru, Colombia,
Panama.
Cuba,
Yeah.
yeah,
Correct.
Cuban, Panama, like
Right.
everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
So I
Everywhere
didn't,
they speak Spanish. Yeah, right.
right, exactly. And even though the Philippines was a Spanish colony, like, you know, they
A
have
long time ago. Right.
yeah, a long time ago, but it's not the same, obviously, in Miami. And I didn't have any like Filipino community that was outside of my immediate family.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like my second
Sure.
cousins, like I would see them all the time, but they were the only Filipinos I
That's
ever
it.
knew.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
It's not like in New York where there's Chinatown and there's no
exactly.
Filipino town that you can just be
Yeah,
like,
they're
all right, I can
exactly.
go
It's
have
not
the food and the clothes and the heritage. It just didn't exist.
exactly. It's not like California either, where there's like a ton of Filipinos
Right,
and it's
right.
like nothing.
Right. And I was gonna say, being Jewish, moving to Miami, it's like, oi, what are you talking about? There are Jews
Yeah,
everywhere. Like that wasn't a problem.
yeah,
And again, these are things that we just don't understand unless they happen to us. And that's why I appreciate you talking about these things. And then my question was, how about being a female Filipino DJ? Did you have some hurdles with that? Did that kind of hinder maybe some things because we were like, what's this all about? Or is the
well,
DJ world a little bit more accepting than maybe the rest of the world?
I think now it's a lot more accepting, but back then, like this music business is a male dominated industry.
Yes.
Um, and you hear about this like going in and like I mean, I read about it all the time, but it like at the time I was like pretty much the only female DJ that was in town that was like playing regularly.
Wow.
Like a lot of them were guys pretty much. And I stood out. It was actually an advantage for me at the time because you know, I was up and coming and I was the only girl DJing, so there was a lot of interest because of that.
Wow.
Um,
So you actually carved your own niche, as it were, because you were a female in a male dominated field, and all of a sudden, maybe for your luck, it started to change where people are like, you know what? I want to see a female DJ. I think that would be a good idea. And you maybe
yeah,
just were riding the precipice wave right into that, and it was right place at right time.
Absolutely, yeah. And now, I mean, there's a ton of girls playing now, which is like crazy to me because 11 years ago I didn't have
It
that.
was you.
Yeah, it was just me, and, like, being the only local. I mean, there were big famous DJs that were female, but,
Right, right, right. But not
locally,
local. Right.
yeah, but not locally,
It's
like,
just dude after dude after dude. And
yeah,
then all of a
exactly, and it's
sudden
same
there's Miss
guys, yeah.
Mata. Like,
Yeah,
whoa,
exactly.
wow. And
So, yeah, it was a huge advantage for me when I started out. So, like, right place, right time, exactly.
that's awesome. And I wanted to ask you if you wouldn't mind explaining to the audience, where did your name come from? I know it's part of your last name, but how did it evolve into what it is?
I mean, I had different variations of DJ names, and it I just settled on Mada. But then there's another DJ that I really admire. Her name is Magda. So I
Ah,
did it like our names are too similar. So I was kind of like, all right, I'm gonna put MS dot in front of it. So that's how Miss Mada came to be.
oh, that's awesome. I thank you for telling me. I had no
Yeah.
idea. What then in DJing would you say was your most challenging experience? And how did you overcome that? And did that also, last part, do you really feel like maybe that made you a better person for that challenge that you had to overcome?
When I started out, I mean, being a female and Asian DJ obviously was a huge advantage, but it was also like uh a disadvantage to the point where like I kind of wasn't taken too seriously in the beginning as well. Like there's two different sides to it. Like I got the attention, but then when the
Yes.
attention came, a lot of people were like, "Oh, like, she's only getting attention because she's a girl," you know?
Right. And that seems to
So,
be the story for a lot of women. Like they're trying to blaze the trail there on whatever the scene is because dudes dominate, and then women come and it's like, oh look, it's the novelty, it's a girl, and then all of a
yeah,
sudden,
it's like as if we have to prove ourselves even more, but I'm just here because I like the music and I want to play the music. Like it's nothing like I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody,
and
you
was
know?
there a moment where you realized that perhaps you being the trailblazer opened up the door for other women to do what you do?
I mean, I hope so. I mean, I know like a lot younger like DJs, female DJs now, like some will come up to me saying like, "Oh, I used to, I look up to you so much. Like I remember like watching you play like on, like I have my recorded sets on YouTube as well."
Yes.
And they'll tell me that they saw my set there and that like kind of inspired them to try it out and, they're playing regularly, you
Wow.
know. But it definitely isn't only me. I think I'm just part of part of the entire thing.
This
Um,
new wave of females
yeah,
taking over
that
the
started
DJ
it.
world.
And
Yes.
I'm just thankful to be part of that, and I'm thankful for every like person that has come up to me saying that
That's got,
because it's not easy. And
yeah.
like I wish I had that going into it. I didn't really have that going
Mm.
into it. So
So you're blazing the trail and now you're reaping the benefits of other young women coming to say, "Hey, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have done this."
right,
My
absolutely.
question is basically on ignorance. Is this an expensive thing to get into?
It can be, purchasing your own equipment and then like practicing. Um, which by the way, like when I started like getting into it, I didn't have my own equipment at the time, but I would go to Guitar Center and
Mm-hmm.
practice on the equipment that they have there. They have like testers, like a
Yes.
testing setup area.
Yes.
And it's connected to speakers and like I would just go in with my CDs like every other day and like play music and they wouldn't say anything to me. They would just let me play for hours.
That's incredible.
And
So, so
it's
you
really
got
funny
your own
because
fan base at Guitar Center. That's
no,
amazing.
it's really funny because somebody had messaged me. I forget if it was on Facebook or like on Instagram. They were like, "Hey, I used to work at Guitar Center.
No.
I used to listen to you all the time, and I'm really happy to see your growth."
Oh, that's
I hear, and they're like, "Oh,
amazing.
we hear these other DJs playing, and they're not as good as you."
Oh my God. Now, is that the Guitar Center that's next to Michael's? That's like the one in South Miami?
Yeah, the one in
Yeah,
South Miami
I
in
love that
Kendall.
one. I've been there so many times. That place is great.
Yeah.
That is an amazing story that you used to really go practice there and no one was like, "Hey
No,
kid, get
yeah.
out of here."
Yeah, so I mean, it is expensive getting into it. Obviously, you need to practice and like, harness your craft and master your craft. Music selection is part of it,
Yes.
which can be expensive as well because, every single song is like $1.50, $2, and
Right.
that racks up. There are days where I spend like 50, $100 on music on one day alone.
Oh
So
my gosh. So that really
yeah,
can add up if you're doing that on the regular. Oh my God.
absolutely. Yeah,
Didn't even
absolutely.
realize that. Yeah, because you have to buy it. You have to own it to be able to use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So with all of this time that you just said that you were putting into this craft, when was there Rachel me time? Like, how did you say, all right, I've been practicing. I just need a break. Like, how did you work in relaxation time, or maybe spinning on your own and just having fun is your relaxation time? How did you go about it?
My relaxation is, I mean, that's basically what it was. Like, I mean, I was doing when I was practicing, I was doing what I loved, so it didn't feel like work to me. And that's the most amazing thing about it. Like, it doesn't feel like it's actual work. Yeah,
Right.
I'm tired, I can be exhausted, but doing what you love,
What
I
is
don't
that
know
old? What is
anything.
what's that old saying that like parents always say to their kids? Find something you love to do as a job, and you'll never work another day in your life, or whatever.
Exactly,
And you
exactly.
did.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, for me, like, going to college was work. That
Right.
was work for me. So doing this was like, wow, like, yeah, it's work, but I love doing this. So
And the reward is amazing. And
yeah, exactly. Which doesn't happen to everybody. The music
no,
business can be treacherous.
yes, yes. I interviewed someone the other day who actually went to South Miami, and she's an actress in California. And do you remember Jessica Farr?
Yeah, I do actually. Wow. I haven't heard that name in a really long time.
I'm sure you haven't. And I interviewed her, and she was talking about that as well, and talking about how LA will just chew you up, spit you out, and next. And I was like, wow, like I've heard the story before, but not from anyone I actually know. So it's interesting. Again, it goes back to the original premise of this. We all have our own journey. We all have our own path, and sometimes there's a guided path. Sometimes there's bumps in the road. Sometimes there's no path at all, and you just have to figure it out as you go. And it just seems like you were literally right place at right time, but you didn't give up, and you didn't say, "Hey, I'm the only girl doing this," and you turned a potential negative into a total positive. Like, yeah, I'm the only girl that does this, and you need me to do this because it's all dudes. And how about a girl perspective? And that's amazing. And like you said, having other girls come up to you and say, "Hey, I heard you, and this was influential." That in
Right.
itself is amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the dynamic of, like, because growing up, like, when I was a kid, like, girls were like playing with dollhouses and stuff, and
right.
meanwhile, I was like messing around with technology. Like, my CD player would break, so I'd break it open and then, put it back together and it would work.
Wow.
So I think being
So you were really
practical.
techie back then too. That's
Yeah,
incredible.
exactly. So I think that dynamic would made it like easier for me to go into DJing, like, because it's very technical.
Yes.
So I think that interest as well, like,
Hmm.
propelled me even more so in that direction, because it was just kind of like, okay, like, there are
Then that may
buttons and
be
faders, so
that
I could do it.
that may be maybe the detriment to people, that most people equate techiness with guys for some reason, as inappropriate as that may be. But it's like a bunch of girls didn't start Facebook because they weren't told, "Hey, you guys could do this." And that's what I tell my current female students all the time. You do understand that there's an easier path for you to become an engineer than a guy because of the scholarships, but they're not necessarily pushed in that way, and girls just recently are being able to do so. So maybe they
Right.
didn't get into it because they didn't know, or were a
Interested.
shy or interested in the techie aspect of it. Yeah,
Right.
that's it. And then once girls realize, well, wait a second, this isn't that hard, with time and effort, and then look at the outcome of what I can make and what I can do.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
wow, that's really interesting. So, is there anything that you learned about middle school as you progressed and you got older, where you were like, wow, I really wish I knew that?
Back then, I just wish that, I if I could tell myself, back then, like, it's okay to be different,
Right.
like, in honestly, like, my whole identity crisis was like during middle school, and like, episodes and stuff like that. So being different was like hard for me growing up. And I think I embrace that so much more now. And I think I feel so much freer embracing who I am. And I think, yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we all see ourselves as the different. I always looked at myself as an oddball and an outcast, pale skin, red hair, green eyes, tall, freckles. Like I joke with the kids now, that's exactly what the ladies wanted when I was in middle school and high school. And it's funny, one of my former colleagues who left well, he wasn't a teacher, he was a technology guy at the school. And he comes up to me, he's like, Proper, you've been married a long time. I'm like, yes, I have. He's like, how did you realize that the woman was the right person for you? And I said, well, for me, it was pretty simple. There was something about me as a kid I hated. I always had such rosy skin, and it drove me nuts. Like around my nose, it always looked like I had a cold. You know that redness you get when you're
Yeah.
constantly blowing your nose? Well, my wife one day turns to me and she goes, one of my favorite things about you is your rosy complexion. And I was like,
Wow.
sold. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. And he's like, he goes, what do you mean? I go, I found someone who was in love with me for the thing that I hated the most about myself growing up. How could this be a bad
Exactly.
person? And, 21 years later, apparently 22 years later, it's still working out. I don't even know. So it's amazing. And I guess when it's yourself, that's probably the hardest thing to do, because it's easier to accept someone else than it is to accept yourself.
Absolutely.
And
I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, once you accept yourself, it seems like everything else seems to just fall into place and get so much better. Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that reassurance definitely helps. Like, but you don't see like you're your own worst critic.
Oh, for
Absolutely.
sure. We all are. No matter how good
Yeah.
you are, you stink. No matter how whatever, you're always like, oh, this could have been better. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
People are super duper happy. I'm sure after shows, you get people, giving you the old pat on the back verbally or even real, and you're like thinking to yourself, man, I did blah 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 during I don't know your industry, so I can't say a mistake, but you know what I'm saying, and you're just thinking
Right.
about that one thing. Meanwhile, everyone's telling you how great you were, and you're like, man,
Yeah,
could have
exactly. And
been better.
I'm
Just could have
so
been better.
upset. Yeah, I can be so obsessed over like a minor mistake that nobody even noticed. So, yeah,
But
definitely.
Miss Mada did.
Listen, I've stopped so I've stopped the music playing by accident in front of a crowd of people
Oh my
more
god.
times than I can count.
Oh
And
my.
it's a really prominent mistake. So,
Yeah.
like in massive clubs too.
Oh my
So,
god. That's got to
if
be so
anybody
embarrassing and hectic.
if anybody can mess up, like it's gonna happen. Even if doing something you love, you're gonna mess up, and I think that's a part of growth. Like it's you accept it and you move on. Accepting and moving on is part of it.
That's amazing. I love that. Part of personal growth is accepting and moving on.
Yeah.
Fact that you would come on and spend this time talking to me to help students, to help me, to help anyone, and to tell
Yeah.
your story, because again, your story is such a unique story. You hit on so many of the unique categories, and so many people I think will be like, holy crap, if that girl can do it for that, maybe it's not they don't want to be a DJ, but if that girl can do it, I could do my thing. And
Right.
that's kind of what this is all about, trying to
Absolutely.
influence people to say, hey, kid, you can do it, but you got to put in the work.
Yeah, exactly. And
Awesome.
you don't have to be traditional in the way that, scholastic wise or like whatever,
No.
education wise.
And again, thank you so much for pointing that out to me, because that's the whole premise of the title in the opening paragraph, like
Right.
everyone's journey to get there. And at first it was all educational. And then you were like, well, mine really, everyone's
Which
story
is
is different.
yeah.
You don't have to be the straight A student that goes to, like the one girl who played Division I golf and now she has a full scholarship to go to University of Florida to become a lawyer, or her sister who's getting her PhD at McGill University in Canada. It doesn't all have to be educationally driven. I have so many other students who've done so many other things that were not educationally bound, but you still had to be driven. The drive is
Absolutely.
still there. It doesn't matter if it's
Exactly.
school or other. And
Exactly. It's the driven part.
yes, and you pointed that out, and I can't thank you enough for doing so.
No problem. I mean, I had a feeling like when you had asked me, I'm like, well, like my path wasn't educational. So I don't
And I
know
needed
what.
to know that.
Yeah,
Because that was the original intent when I started it. But
right.
I realized through talking to you was, wait, read your own paragraph, dummy. Like the opening thing that says, where is it? Hold on. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I
I
mean,
write it, everyone has a different path to where they are now, and that path may just the beginning to where they actually want to be. And I wrote that. Those are my words. And
right.
I didn't realize that until you mentioned it to me in your kind response to your email. And I was like, yeah, but that's what this was supposed to be. Like it was almost like I needed to be grounded and brought back into my own reality. And you did that.
Right.
And I
Right.
thank you. Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I wanted to thank you so much for today, for doing my podcast, coming on and telling me about yourself. And it's amazing the things that you have and will accomplish. And I look forward to seeing what the future has for Miss Mata, which seems to be infinite. It seems to be anything that whatever Rachel wants to turn it into, especially now that you're like, forget the dual, the triple, the quadruple threat. You're everything. You're learning the business, you're performing, you're contractual, you're everything. And that in itself just says that, you're so eager and your willingness to be successful. You're not going to stop until you get to what it is that you want.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about it is just having the passion that I do. Like even if I'm gonna fail a couple of times, which I did, in the first couple of years, the determination is what makes a difference. Like, you get back up and get on the saddle, even if
Dust
you fall
yourself
off.
off and get back on the
Yeah,
horse and try again. And that's what it's all about.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That is amazing. So again, thank you so much for being on my podcast. I greatly appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for listening to How I Got Here podcast with Mr. Proper. Music provided by Miss Mada. Thank you to Patty Fernandez for the introduction. Thank you to Seth Proper for logistics and behind-the-scenes production. Join us next time for another episode of How I Got Here and more stories of former students and their journey.